pops in. Um, share my screen. All right. Well, welcome to video editing. We're online today, for the holiday. So basically, we will have class Monday in person, but next week again, Tuesday will be remote. So just keep that in mind. Uh, yeah. So this week and next week will be remote. So you won't have the computer in front of you with CapCut. So I will uh, be talking about things related to video editing and showing you some things in CapCut and outside of CapCut that you can still follow along with, still get some information about. So first things first, let me um, we had the tournament last Wednesday with marbles. Um, and so it was pretty cool, pretty nice turnout. I did a little recap video for it, so I'll just play that real quick. Um, okay, so let me reshare, make sure you can hear this. Okay.
Today was a pretty eventful and fun day. We did marbles on stream. I was casting it, got very hyped, nearly lost my voice, but that's part of having casting is just having getting really excited for the big moments, because you never know what's gonna happen. And that's the fun thing with marbles is it was very unpredictable. We had Angelo who was really dominating the entire race, only for him to just lose to Noah for the $100 gift card. So it was pretty fun today.
Today I won a T-shirt. I got a couple top threes and some of them. I got top two, and for the $100 gift card, I was in first place for the majority of the race. Then he came with the hand and just stole my money. That's what happened.
I clutched it up the marble race. I beat Angela, and I got first.
It's this game called Marbles. Apparently, it's super unpredictable and anything happens. And I won a T-shirt.
I'm very excited to do the Fortnite tournament, which is coming up. A lot of the students have been very getting very good at crafting their skills for that matter, and I'm very excited to cast for that one.
Yeah, so that was just the recap video from the tournament we had. Noah ended up winning a $100 gift card, so we'll have another Fortnite tournament coming up soon. So if you want to participate in that, be on the lookout, and you could possibly, win something. So, so yeah, that was that. All right. So today, what I wanted to talk about is cover music videos. Now, music videos are a a popular thing nowadays. Everybody wants to be a rapper and a musician, and you know, just have a video for their music. And so there's been I kind of started. I didn't start out as a music video editor, but I kind of that was some of my That was the most of the projects that I worked on when I was younger. Just hanging out with my friends. They made music, so I just did a music video for them. Um, but as I got older, I started to do music videos less and less, mainly because music videos are a lot of work. Because I wasn't just editing them, I was shooting and directing them as well. So when you're doing the shooting, the editing, and the directing, and scouting locations, and doing all that, and really putting everything into it, that takes a lot of time and effort. So with that, though, you can charge a lot of money. If you want to go into music video editing or filming music videos, you can pretty much make a good make your own rate and make a good amount of money from it, especially if you're shooting and editing it. But I don't really do music videos anymore. But I was charging like $800, $900 for music videos because I was doing everything. But some people strictly just edit music videos. They don't film, they just edit them. And then there's other artists who just film and don't edit, and then you have people who do both, shoot and edit. So it's completely up to you and what you want to do and how much work you want to put into it and where you kind of resonate with it. But you can make some good money, but just keep in mind it's a lot of work, if you're doing everything. So that's just a little thing I wanted to mention about that. But for if you don't know how music videos work in the industry, um, well, first, Lanai, do you know anything about music videos or like how they're made in terms of that, or not really?
Um, Not really. I just know
Okay,
it's really like in case you're doing like lyrics on the screen, that takes a lot of time.
like the captions.
Mhm.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, and if you do captions, that's even more. Um, that's even more. Work that you have to do. But luckily now, there's software. There's software now that you can have the captions, just AI can do it for you. So you don't have to do it one by one. It could do it on its own. So I've learned that now with video editing, it's with AI involved and the new updates and the new software, it's just making it easier and easier to edit. But 5 years ago, you had to literally type out, the lyrics or whatever the artist was saying, and that's a lot of time and effort. Type each word one by one, then say it again. And if it's like a 2 minute music video, you got to do that for 2 minutes, like for a 2 minute video, which can take hours. Um, so yeah, so that's part of it. And another thing about music videos are, um, if you're shooting a music video, which essentially what you're doing is you're getting all this footage and you're taking it to the editor, and they have to basically reduce, because most music videos are between, I would say, a minute and a half and 3 minutes. Sometimes they're over, sometimes they're shorter than that, but on average between a minute and 3 minutes, a minute and a half and 3 minutes. So if you go on YouTube and search any music video, Drake, Rihanna, uh, uh, Kendrick Lamar, any artist really, a lot of the videos are between a minute and 3 minutes. I mean, a minute and a half and 3 minutes. Now they may have like a story in the beginning or a story at the end, but in terms of the actual music, that's how long it is, because that's how long a typical song is. But sometimes they're longer if they have like a story to it or whatnot. But so you basically have to get hours and days worth of footage and compress it and edit it into a minute and a half to 3 minutes. That's a lot because you have hours and hours of footage. So you got to find the best, especially if there are different shots and different angles. You have to get all those shots, find the best one, put it together, edit it, and then make it a minute and a half. So that takes a lot of time to do that because you want to make sure you get the best shots. You want to make sure you're getting the artist performing, and then you want to get some of the B-roll, and we'll talk about B-roll in a minute. But yeah, so uh, those music that you see that come out really good, they typically have a team. When I was doing it all on my own, which wasn't it's really smart. It was a lot of work. So ideally, you would want to have somebody editing it, somebody shooting it, somebody directing it. Somebody in terms of the hair and makeup, somebody in terms of scouting the location, someone in terms of someone in charge of styling, like getting the outfits together, someone in charge of casting, getting the crew and other people, so everybody kind of doing their own job versus one person doing everything. So that's how it should be, and that's how you probably get the best results, because everybody's focused on their one task that they do best versus trying to tackle between multiple roles, and then you get, stressed out and exhausted. So that's important too. It's a very collaborative effort, and you'll get the best out of it. So, so yeah, essentially, we're gonna. I have. If we were in class today, I would basically have clips for you to make a music video. But since we're not, I'll just show you the setup and how to actually put that together and how that works through CapCut. And so you can see on my screen how I do it, and then maybe that can, if that's something you're interested in, next time we meet, I can give you the clips, and then you can edit your own version of the video. But that's what I gave the assignment on Monday for those participants who were here Monday. I basically gave them footage to put together a music video. They all had the same footage, and I told them basically make this music video with these restrictions, and we're gonna watch them next Monday. Just see how creative everybody got with them. I pretty much gave them full creative control. Just said certain restrictions I gave them, but other than that, freedom, complete freedom of whatever you want to do with that. So, yeah, same clips. And then, yeah, we just see how everybody did what everybody came up with. And what else? Yeah, okay. And so typically for music videos, the way that it works is that, like I said, everybody has a role. There's a director, like professionally, if you're looking at a professional video, let's say for, uh, like Kendrick Lamar, let's just say, right? He has a team who produces. He has a production team to actually create his music video. That could be from his record label or his creative agency. However it is, he has a team. So typically, the person in charge is the creative director. They're in charge of the vision, creative look of the video, and how it goes. Basically, the director, but they call him a creative director because they're pretty much over the creative and artistic look of the video. So they basically have a team, and what they do is they say, okay, here we're going to film this video in 3 different locations. So let's say they film one scene in the house, another scene in a car, and then the third scene outside. They basically have to go through the music video each time in each scene. So they have 3 different scenes with this, with the music going on in the back. So they may do, okay, let's do the whole video here in the house. Okay, cool. We got the whole music video here in the house. Then they say, okay, let's move to the inside. Then they move in the inside and do a music video. Then they'll say, okay, then let's go to the car. And they shoot the video again there. So they shoot the video basically 3 times, right? And so I'll show you some examples on YouTube what I mean. But you want to film different scenes, because if you film different scenes, you get more variety. You don't want to see a music video where they're in the same location, a whole video. That's boring, right? You don't want to see somebody performing in a warehouse for 2 minutes. No, you want to see some variety. You want to see them go from a motel room to, a warehouse to maybe a garden. Just change up the location to give the video a more cinematic look. So it's important to give variety in the video, so it's worth watching. You're basically making a mini movie for your song. That's how you should view a music video. It's basically a mini movie, a mini film for your song. So it's important to grab the artist's attention and make them feel the song through the visuals. So uh, so yeah, once they film all 3 scenes, they go through it each time in each different location. They put it in the editing software, and then they cut it up, and then you have a music video where you have 3 different scenes. You cut it up, and then you come out with this music video. So I'll show you an example of a music video like that. Let me think of a good video. I'll do just like Kendrick Lamar "Humble," since that's let me share my screen. All right. Let me know if you cannot hear this.
It's not just where you eat,
Could be.
it's who you share it.
So this video is 3 minutes long, but notice he has like this dramatic introduction at the beginning and probably something at the end too. So like I said, they're sometimes longer because it's like that added story, but essentially he made a movie for the song Humble. So I'll just play it.
We get a weakness. You gotta see this. Yeah, yeah. Hey, I remember syrup sandwiches and crime allowances. Finesse a nigga with some counterfeits, but now I'm counting this. Parmesan where my accountant lives. In fact, I'm down in this. You say with my boo babe tastes like Kool-Aid for the analyst. Girl, I can buy your Westie world with my base stuff. Ooh, that pussy good. Once you sit it on my taste buds. I get way too petty once you let me do the extras. Pull up on your block, then break it down. We playing Tetris. AM to the PM, PM to the AM phone. Piss out your per diem, you just gotta hate them folk. If I quit your BM, I still rock Mercedes folk. If I quit this season, I still be the greatest folk. My left stroke just went viral. Right stroke put a baby in a spiral. Soprano C, we like to keep it on the high note. There's levels to it, you and I know. Bitch, be humble. Hold up, bitch. Sit down. Be humble. Sit down. Be humble. Bitch, sit down. Be humble. Sit down. Be humble. Sit down. Be humble. Sit down. Be humble. Bitch, sit down. Be humble. Sit down. Who that nigga thinking that he frontin' on women? Get the fuck off my stage, I'm the Sandman. Get the fuck off my dick, that ain't right. I make a play, fucking up your whole life. I'm so fucking sick and tired of the Photoshop. Show me something natural like Afro with your pride. Show me something natural like ass with some stretch marks. Still a take you down right on your mama couch in polo socks. Hey, this shit way too crazy. Hey, you do not amaze me. Hey, I blew cool from ACA. Oh, how much is page me? Hey, I don't fabricate it. Hey, most of y'all be faking. Hey, I stay modest about it. Hey, she elaborated. Hey, this that great poop on the AV on the TED Talk. Hey, watch my soul speak. You let the meds talk. Hey, if I kill a nigga, it won't be the alcohol. Hey, I'm the realest nigga after all. Bitch, be humble. Hold up, bitch. Sit down. Be humble. Sit down. Be humble. Bitch, sit down. Be humble. Sit down. Be humble. Sit down. Be humble. Sit down. Be humble. Bitch, sit down. Be humble. Sit down.
Okay. So
Say goodbye to Slack.
So after this ad goes, I'm gonna show you what I mean. So I remember watching that video in high school, and because this came out in 2017, so I was a senior, I think, either a junior or a senior, and I was a junior. So I remember seeing this in my film class, and everybody was like, "Wow, this is amazing." I was even thinking that too. I'm like, certain shots in here are just crazy, um, like just this shot here, like he's in the center and like ball heads around him. And then my favorite shot though was this one. I'll show you. That one with the camera moving. That was one of my favorite things. I was always in my head thinking like, that's so cool. I wonder how they did that. I know how they did it now, but before I remember thinking like, wow, that's crazy. Basically, what they did is they had a camera on a rig that moved up and down and left and right, and so it just followed his head and the camera just moves in that direction. Then they added some little extra effects. So a lot of it was the camera on this like crane that moved around. Um, yeah. So, but this video, I want to point this out because there's a lot kind of going on here. So when I told you how they filmed 3 different scenes, they don't want to, have the same shot going on. So for this song, for this scene, they probably told Kendrick Lamar to perform the whole video in this like chapel, this church. So they did the whole video one time in this chapel. So they filmed him. He did the whole performance. Boom. That's the first scene, this chapel. The second scene, right here on this table, they had him do the music video again, but this time on a table with, the money. And they filmed it all the way through. Cool. Then another one they had was this scene right here. They had him do the whole music video. Again, now sometimes they may have told him, okay, just this part do here, but a lot of the time they tell him to do the full video in that location because it's easier to edit that way. But sometimes they may say, okay, just from this part of the lyrics to this part of the lyrics, we'll film it here. Sometimes they do that, but it's easier if they film it all the way through because then you could just splice it up wherever you want to and then make, get even more creative. But this was the third scene they had them filming through in this scene. And then again here, probably they had them do it again, this time in this house with this table, kind of like the Last Supper. And then again, they probably told him to do a scene here. So he probably had to do this song probably like 8 different times in all these different locations. So they filmed him probably like 8 or 9 different times in all these different scenes. And they ran through the music video for each one the whole time. So now you have 8 scenes of him performing. So now when you have all these scenes, you have like 8 scenes. You can now take those 8 scenes that you shot, put them into the software, and then just cut them up, right? So that's essentially how it's made. They film the artist doing the music from beginning to end in one location. Then they tell them, okay, do it again, but this time in a different location. Okay, we're gonna do it again in another location, and just keep going until however many they want. And now you may also be wondering, how do they know what words to say? Like, how do they know what to say? Well, typically there's like a boom box or something in the background when they were filming this to get them to say the words on time and stuff. So we don't hear it because they put the real quality song, the final version of the song under it. But in this, when they filmed it, they probably had like the boom box of the song playing in the back. So Kendrick Lamar knew the words. I mean, he knows the words to his own song, but to follow the rhythm and just go with the video, it just makes it easier. So when you're shooting a music video, they typically have the song playing in the back when you're shooting it, and because that way they can follow along with the lyrics, and so it matches up. So that's how essentially a music video is made: shooting in multiple locations, all the way through from beginning to end, and then uh, putting it into the software and cutting it up. Now, I mentioned B-roll. So for people who don't know what B-roll is, if you've never heard of B-roll is basically the footage where the artist isn't performing. It's separate secondary footage to add to the story, to make the shots cooler, another visual. So an example of B-roll in this shot would be, I'll show you right here. Like where the girls are counting the money, that's B-roll because we don't see Kendrick Lamar rapping. It's just some extra clips to put over the video to just add, another layer, another dimension to it. So that's what B-roll is. And B-roll isn't just a music video term. That's a term in video altogether. So that they use B-roll in the news, like if you ever watch CNN or ABC, whatever. B-roll is any extra footage that tells a story. So for example, if it's a fire that broke out in an apartment building, right? And like the reporter is saying, an apartment behind me caught on fire, then they may do a zoom in of the apartment building and show all the burnt furniture. That would be the B-roll because it's that secondary footage that's explaining what the reporter is saying. So it's just secondary footage to make the story flow more and add more footage. But it also makes it more interesting, right? We don't want to just see a news reporter reporting the news and not see what happened. We don't want to just see a person talking. That's boring. We want to see what the person is talking about. We want to see where the fire broke out. We want to see what happened. Let me see the damage. If you talk about the damage, let's see it. We don't want to just watch the whole thing full through with just somebody talking all day. We want to see some variety. We want to see some separate clips, right? So like I had in this video, I'll share like the video that I did of the recap, right? So in this video where Christian was saying
Pretty
he lost
fun day we did.
he was saying, he almost lost his voice as he was casting.
Casting it, got very hyped. Nearly lost my voice.
When you say nearly lost his voice, that's the B-roll. Me showing him, yelling, losing his voice, right? So that I put that over the part where he's
hyped.
nearly
lost my voice.
Right. So we see that. So that's the B-roll, right? We don't just see him talking the whole time. I added another clip over it to give you an understanding what he's talking about, right? Same here. Where Angelo was saying, he got first place all the way through and then lost at the end. Then I showed a clip of him, winning at the beginning, right? Where he put his finger.
I got top 2
right here. That's the B-roll, right? So that's the B-roll, and then the interview is the interview. So that's what it is. I'm not trying to overcomplicate it, but B-roll is just that extra shot that tells more to the story. So when he said that, and then right here when Chris was like, it's this game called Marbles, it's super unpredictable, and then I showed the shot of everybody going crazy, showing how unpredictable.
It's this game called Marbles. Apparently, it's super unpredictable. And
see how I show Anthony kind of surprised how he was saying it's unpredictable. Then I show some shots that kind of show how unpredictable it was, right? So that's what B-roll is. You hear that in news, you'll hear that in music videos, you'll hear that in documentaries, you'll hear that in public service announcements. B-roll is just any video that adds to the story and gives variety to the video. So we're not just seeing somebody talking all day. But B-roll is also good for mistakes. So I know I did one interview where this guy was digging in his ear while I was interviewing him. Well, I don't want to show that where some guy's digging his ear. That's kind of nasty. So I put some B-roll over that part. And so if it, the viewers didn't see that part, but they heard his voice, but they didn't see the part of him like digging in his ear. So I was able to hide that mistake by just adding some B-roll on top of that part. And then, was able to, fix that without having to reshoot or do anything else. I just put a B-roll over that. So it's good for that too. It fixes mistakes. So that's what B-roll is. If you ever hear of B-roll, that's what it is. Just extra shots. Cool. And if you ever have any questions, feel free to raise your hand or just throw it in the chat. But yeah, so that's B-roll. So if I mention that, that's what that is. Okay, so let me jump into CapCut and actually show you a little bit of about piecing together a music video. So 1 second. Okay. All right, so I'm gonna jump in CapCut. So I'm gonna make sure my screen is sharing this. 1 second. Okay. Okay, so you should be seeing CapCut right now. Let me know if not. But again, CapCut will create a new project. All right, so on my drive here, I just found this footage online, a sample music video just to, get some experience with it. I didn't shoot this or I don't know this artist or anything. I just got this online. So I have 2 folders. I have the performance videos, which is the video of the artist actually performing, right? You see him actually talking and, rapping. And then I have another one with B-roll, which is what we talked about, some secondary shots, right? So in here where he's like pressing his watch, he's not actually rapping. It's just separate shots. Same here. This lady, she's like pouring out this bag full of money. No one's performing here. It's just some extra shots, right? So that's B-roll. But in the performance folder, I have the artist actually rapping, right? So we see him actually rapping. Same here. And notice it's 3 different scenes. Like I said before, you want to get that variety. So one scene, they shot it, the whole video, the whole song through in his motel room. So second time they shot it full through was in this little kitchen, abandoned little kitchen and living room. That's the second time they shot it, right? And the third time was in his warehouse with the Lamborghini in the back. So they shot this video 3 different times at 3 different locations, right? Same song, same artist, just a different location. So we got 3 different scenes that we can work with. So let's bring these in. And then we have the audio file, which is the actual music, the raw file that is from like Apple Music. So the final version. So I'm going to import my performance clips. And then, cool. So first thing you do is I'm also import my the music too. So first thing I'm going to do is when you edit a music video, the kind of the tricky part is aligning everything, right? Aligning the song and matching it up with their mouth as they're performing it, right? The full final cover of the song, and you need to match it up with the artist's mouth. And so it doesn't seem like they're talking faster or slower than the song. That just throws it off. It doesn't make it look professional or good. So that's important. You want to match it up to make sure the words follow the actual song that they recorded. So I'll take this living room scene where they shot it. So I'm gonna drag it on my timeline. Cool. So here's the video. It's no audio, so I'm playing it through. You can't hear anything because there's no music. It's just the scene. Right. So this is the first scene I'm gonna use in this little kitchen. So here's the actual song. So I'm gonna drag it to the bottom, and now let's see how it sounds. Does it match up with the words of him rapping, or do I need to move anything over, or cut something? Let's see.
Nico. Yeah, yeah. Look. If it's money that you want, then I got it. Leave me out of pocket and bitches is pocket watching. I got a lot of options. If I want it, I'ma copy it. Ain't really nothing to me. She know that the kid is ballin'. I've been sipping Henny, borderline and alcoholic. She roll up a whip for me, good for me. That's iconic. And I've been a Billy to see to give it Messiah. She never wanted to end, but I pass her off to my partner.
Okay.
Oh no, I sit the telly, make a man.
So that matches pretty well. So luckily, we don't have to do really any editing to this or aligning anything or synchronizing anything because it fits, right? It seems like he's rapping on beat. Like everything is pretty lined up. The song fits and it seems like it's matching at the time he's saying it. So we're good. The first scene is lined up, right? So we're good there. Cool. Now, let's add the second scene in the motel room. Let's see how that sounds. Let's see if that needs to be changed at all.
Nico. Yeah, yeah. Look, if it's money that you want, then I got it. Leave me out of pocket and bitches is pocket watching. I got a lot of options. If I want it, I'ma copy it. Ain't really nothing to me. She know that the kid is ballin'. I've been sipping Henny, borderline and alcoholic. She roll up a whip for me, good for me. That's iconic. And I've been a Billy to see to give it Messiah. She never wanted to end, but I pass off to my partner. Lord knows.
Okay, so that matches pretty well too. So we got lucky here. We don't have to do much work in terms of putting in anything, aligning anything, right? But when you actually shoot one and edit it, you have to do that. It takes actually like a good amount of time to actually align everything up. Maybe like not that long, but maybe like 30, 45 minutes. But now they have little shortcuts where you can just synchronize everything. But back in the day, you had to look at the words and see it match, and it was a lot of work. But now it's actually quicker. You could just synchronize everything and it works. But we got lucky. We don't have to do much of that. So these two line up. Cool. Now this final one in this warehouse, let's see how this sounds with it. Now this one's a little longer, it seems like. So we might have to actually play with this one a little bit. But let's see.
Nico. Yeah. Look, If it's money that you want, then I got it. Leave me out of pocket and bitches is pocket watching. I got a lot of options. If I want it, I'ma copy it. Ain't really nothing to me. She know that the kid is ballin'. I've been sipping Henny, borderline and alcoholic. She roll up a whoop for me, good for me. That's that chronic. Straight out in the belly, the seat to give it massage. She never wanted to end, but I pass out to my partner. Lord knows, I sit the telly, make a meal. I can never fall in love. I do it for the thrill. Oh no, I'm popping another pill. Try to think of level, I can't tell her how I feel. Never sober, I'm off.
Okay, so that's pretty good. Like I'll just keep that. Like that's pretty good, especially after we like cut everything up. It'll look even better. But yeah, so these three scenes just happen to match up really well. It never really happens like this. I mean, it can if you prepare for this when you film it, but if not, you gotta go in and match it. But these all match up, so that's good. So this makes the next step even easier, right? So we got all three scenes, right? So remember in CapCut, whatever's at the top gets priority. That's what's seen first. So for example, this is on top of these two, right? The warehouse scene is on top of the motel and the living room scene. So we see only the warehouse scene because that's on top of these two. But if we were to move this over, now the motel scene is on the top, right? So now we see that, but we don't see the living room shot because the motel gets priority. It's a hierarchical. So whatever's on top is seen first. If I move it over, now we see this one, right? So keep that in mind too. Like the order of how these are arranged shows, what you'll be seeing. So now that we got the music in there, we got our three different scenes. Let's start to chop this up. So honestly, you could be really creative with this, but you can also you don't have to be at the same time. Of course, I recommend you being creative, but the fact that you have all of these lined up, you can just make cuts and it'll look like a music video that easily. So I'll show you what I mean. So I'm gonna click split my cut tool. So now I'm gonna just make a bunch of I'm gonna zoom in a little bit. So I'm gonna just make a bunch of cuts and start cutting stuff. So I'm gonna make probably a cut here, cut here, cut here, cut here, cut here. Just do some cuts. Okay, cool. Now I'm gonna do the same with the second scene. Just make some cuts, maybe in a different way though, so it doesn't look exactly like the same. So I just cut up both scenes. So now this last scene, let me cut this one. Okay. So we have all these cuts that I made in all three of the scenes. So now let me delete some of these and then let's see it play out. So I'll probably delete this one. I'll probably delete that one, and then it's up to you from there how you want to do it. Boom. Probably delete this one, and this one. And you can also push stuff back. That might also be better for you. So I'm just all right. So let's run this through. I made a bunch of cuts and let's just run it through. See what it looks like so far.
Nico. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Look. If it's money that you want, then I got it. Leave me out of pocket and bitches is pocket watching. I got a lot of options. If I want it, I'ma copy it. Ain't really nothing to me. She know that the kid is ballin'. I've been sipping Henny, borderline and alcoholic. She roll up a whoop for me, good for me. That's a chronic. And I feel a Bentley, the seat forgiving Messiah. She never wanted to end, but I pass out to my partner. Lord knows, I something tell her make a mirror. I can never fall in love. I do it for the thrill. Oh no, I'm popping another pill. Try to think I love her, I can't tell her how I feel. Never sober, I'm off of the juice. I keep a bad bitch with me, I need them in twos. Cause I can never pick and choose when I get on the move. So tell her bring a friend with her and hop in his coupe. When I get off the Henny, I get a different view. Jackie Robinson with his how I get in the booth. Had to cancel that cause one never gets me amused. And you and these blessings like a different rules. Still, I'm working in the system, she wanna come to the crib. Cause she heard at me in the gang of luxury living. Got models all in the whippy. She want me, but she can't get me. Trying to put a ring on his finger. That little bitch is silly. I'm a smooth ass criminal. I can make you fall in love tonight like it's a ritual. You ain't never seen nobody like me, it's a visual. You can't tell me down, no, I ain't doing individual. That lawyer shit is fictional.
So that's essentially a music video, right? Like you could stop there and be done, right? We showed them a variety of different scenes, the lyrics match. You know, we got you know, like I said, different scenes in here. So this could be finished. Like you can send this off and be done if you wanted to. But again, we still have to add that B-roll that I talked about. And if you want to spice it up even more, I would add that B-roll. But some depending on like you know if you've seen music videos where it's like okay that's kind of basic like the song is good but the music video is probably not all that. I know like a lot of like Chicago rappers like G Herbo, Lil Durk, and Polo G and stuff. They a lot of them they rap like in front of their like street or in their crib or you know in their neighborhood with their guys in the back. You know, and the songs some most of the times are you know pretty decent, but the music video is not that creative. It's just them with their guys in front of their house. Like that's not that creative. But you know, so like I said, you could be done there. Like you could make a music video that simple and just whatever. But if you really want to get creative and if you really want to tell the story, if you really want to add variety, you want to add some B-roll shots. So I'm gonna go in my B-roll folder and see what B-roll I have. Right. So I'll just import everything. Um, Okay, so I know it's B-roll because it's labeled B-roll. So, like I said, B-roll is that secondary footage where nobody's really rapping. It's just that extra footage to kind of add to the story. So let me add some B-roll to this, maybe to spice it up. So I got a shot of, you know, this lady. She's grabbing the money and the gun and dropping it in this like this duffel bag. Let me try to add that over something. And I won't use all the B-roll. I'll probably use just a little bit or a couple of seconds. Maybe I use this Lamborghini shot. Um, you know, probably put it right there. There's another shot of him like doing that with his coat. Maybe I'll add that. And then it's a shot of him like laying down here. Yeah, I'll add this. And then what else? I'll add this maybe. Well, I won't add that. I'll add something else. Maybe this light flickering. Probably add this at the beginning to kind of show that vibe. You know, add one more. Maybe this car. Maybe in the car. All right. So I just added like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, like 5 or 6 different types of B-roll. Yeah, like 7, right? So now let's play this through and see how that B-roll adds to the story a little bit and makes it a little bit more cinematic.
Nico. Yeah, yeah. Look. If it's money that you want, then I got it. They be out of pocket and bitches is pocket watching. I got a lot of options. If I want it, I'ma copy it. Ain't really nothing to me. She know that the kid is ballin'. I've been sipping Henny, borderline and alcoholic. She roll up a whoop for me, good for me. That's chronic. Spent up in a Bentley, the seat to give it massage. She never wanted to end, but I pass off to my partner. Lord knows, I go sit there telling make a mirror. I can never fall in love. I do it for the thrill. Oh no, I'm popping another pill. Shawty think I love her. I can't tell her how I feel. Never sober, I'm off of the juice. I keep a bad bitch with me, I need them to choose. Cause I can never pick and choose when I get on the move. So tell her bring a friend with her and hop in his coupe. When I get off the Henny, I get a different view. Jackie Robinson with his how I get in the booth. Had to cancel that cause one never gets me amused. When you and these blessings like I'm with different rules. Still have a wicked in the system, she wanna come to the crib. Cause she heard at me in the gang in luxury living. Got models all in the whippy, she want me but she can't get me. Trying to put a ring on his finger, that little bitch is silly. I'm a smooth ass criminal, I can make you fall in love tonight like it's a ritual. You ain't never seen nobody like me, it's a visual. You can't tell me down, no, I ain't doing individual. That love shit is fictional.
Okay. So yeah, that was a little bit better. The only thing I would change about this that I did that I would change is maybe extend these a little bit more so it's a little bit longer because it was kind of I feel like those shots kind of came quick. So I would extend those a bit. But again, like editing is subjective. So it's all up to what you want as the editor. Now, of course, the creative director gets the final say. But I mean, in this case, you're the director. So you would get the final say and what you would like to see. So you could add maybe 2 pieces of B-roll, 5 pieces of B-roll, 1 piece of B-roll, whatever you think fits with what you want. There's no right or wrong way to edit a music video. It's more just how it feels and how you want to make the audience feel with it. So in my opinion, for me, I would extend these out a little bit to make it those shots last longer so we see more of the B-roll. So yeah. So we got the B-roll. Let's see. Probably extend that. That was good. I think this is B-roll. No, that's not B-roll. All right, so no, put one more thing and be oh yeah, here we go. That was good. Maybe extend that a little bit more. Okay. So I extended that a little bit more. Okay, cool. So we got our B-roll in there. But of course, every video needs a title. So this song is called Fat Pockets by North Hills. So I'll add some sort of title at the beginning to this is what one of the requirements I told the students on Monday. Make sure you have a title so we know what the song is and who's performing it. So for any title, of course, you go up to text, default text, drag it on. Like I said, it's called Fat Pockets. It's not this fast. Okay, so I'll probably choose like a cool looking font that fits the video, right? So I probably wouldn't have like Time New Roman or something. I'll probably add something. And I have the pro version, so I have access to a little bit more options. But just find something that you think fits the vibe. Mm. Let me just see if I see one else. Okay, I like that. I like that. We'll keep that. Okay, so change up the color a little bit. Maybe no background. Maybe a glow. Yeah. Like that. Yeah, we'll add a shadow. I think it was red at first. We'll keep red. I like the red. Change the angle up a little bit. Like I said, this is completely up to you. What you want to do. You got some other. No. Okay, well, I'm gonna keep that. I like that. So, right. So we got the intro. We got the title in there. If I play this, we don't want the title to just start in like that. We want it to have a nice fade in, right? So I always, tell people get in the habit of fading in and fading out of your stuff, just so it looks better. So there's a couple ways you can do a fade in and fade out. You can go to effects and type it fade in. Then drag it. Oh, I'm sorry. Actually, no, that's not it. So if you want to, okay, so it's two things. You can fade in the title and you can also fade in the video. I would like, for you to do both. So they're both, smooth. So if I want to fade this title in, I actually got to click my title, go to animation. Now, if I want to fade in, I got to make sure I click the in tab, right? You have out and you have in. I want to fade in. So I want to find in. So I can find some way for it to fade in. That's pretty good. Maybe something like that. Yeah, like that. So that fades in. I'll probably scoot it over a little bit. Something like that. Cool. But also now I want it to fade out. So I'm gonna go to out. And you don't have to have the same effect fade now. You can have something else like that. That's fine. So let's see how that looks. So I might scoot over a little bit more. Nico. So yeah, something like that. So we faded in, we faded out. It's a smooth intro. So now let's fade in the actual video. We faded into the title, but let's fade into the actual video. So we know our first way is going to fade in is this. So I'm going to go to animation. You could do it this way, where you could click in, and then you could do that like that. You can also change the duration of it. Actually, since there's a video under this, if I fade into it, it's gonna fade from that video under it, and I don't want that. So in fact, what we'll do, we're using our effects instead, and so we'll grab our fade in and drag it over. Just so many ways to fade in. You can also do it through transition, like if you drag this, and well, actually, no, let's not. Let's stick to effects. So we click fade in. We'll drop it at the beginning, and then it should fade into it like that. So it's a nice little fade in. But we see how. Let's actually put it above everything else because we want to give it priority. So if we were to put that under this, it would kind of counteract with that title, which why it does that like blur thing. We don't want that. So I want to have it fade in and kind of pull it out a little bit. So it should do it now. And you can change the speed of it. So I'll probably decrease the speed so it looks a little smoother. But let me actually do it like this. Extend it. Still gotta do it. So you might have to play with these a little bit. There we go. So that's better. So I use the fade in effect. Again, fade in. So that fades in everything. But if you want to fade into a title, you got to go to animation and then fade in and fade out. But if you want to fade into just the entire video, that's an effect. So fade in right here and just make sure it's at the top, and get the right speed that you want. Cool. So we got the fade in. And of course, we got fade in. We got to have a fade out. So we want to fade out the video. Again, here's fade out.
Yeah.
So we want to take it and drop it at the top. Let's see how that fades. Probably want to move it over. So I don't like that blur that it's giving it. Like you'll kind of
Never see nobody like me, it's a visual. You can't tell me nothing, no, I
see that like blur. We don't want that. So let me see. So let's take this fade out and drop it at the end of our clip. Why is it giving me that blur? Okay. So click fade out, drag it. Okay. Let's try. So, like I said, there's so many ways to do everything. So I have to see why for effects it's not letting me fade out, or it's letting me fade out, but it's giving me that blur. That's not good. So what I end up doing is if one gives you a problem, try another way. So that effect didn't work. So I went to animation, make sure I click fade that out because I'm doing a fade out. Take that fade out, and I just clicked it and dragged it on my video. I could also do it. If I delete this fade in and click this video and click animation, and I do in and fade in. Let's see. Oh, 0 seconds. It's because that clip under it. So yeah, what will have to happen is, depending on how you set your music video up, there may be different ways you select the fade in and fade out. So for me, at the beginning, I had to go to my effects and bring the fade in, and then for my ending, I had clicked my final clip and then went to animation and then fade out and just click the black one. So I the one thing about CapCut, which is good and bad, is that there's multiple ways to do everything. It's good because, if you don't know one way, there's another way. But it's bad because it starts to get confusing because you don't know which one to actually use. So you do have to play around with that. I've noticed that CapCut does that. So for this one, I did a fade out, and it got me through animation. So yeah, and if you have any questions with that, of course, just ask. But I would just play with both. If one doesn't get you what you want, try animation. If animation doesn't get you what you want, try effects, or even try transitions. But transitions would only happen between two clips put together. You can't fade in and fade out with transitions. Transitions only work when you have two clips together. Okay, so far so good. We got our title, we got our fade in, we got our fade out, we got our B-roll, we got our music. What else can we do to make this pop a little bit more? What I would do Of course, you can finish here, but what I would do is I would add some more effects. So again, in effects, uh, here's a nice little effect. So I might drag this onto my B-roll shot like that. Um, and then for this B-roll, maybe I'll add this. This like dreamy glow, yeah. I don't like how it looks there. Maybe I'll do it on this clip. Yeah. So that way it makes this one look a little bit more dreamy. Uh, there's so many effects. If you click this tab, you got some lens and distortion effects.
Brand with that hopping is cool. When I get off the Henny, I get a different view. Check.
Okay. Kind of looks to make it feel like he's like have vertigo or something. That's good. And I don't want to get too crazy with the effects. I never like to, just because I rather let the video do, speak for it. I don't like to just throw a bunch of effects on it, but sometimes they help, depending on how your video looks. Sometimes the effect may spice it up a little bit, but I feel like this video has a lot going on, a lot of colors already, a lot of like stuff like money and girls and guns and cars. So it's a lot of already stuff in here, smoke, strobe lights. It's a bunch of stuff. So I wouldn't add too much to this because they already have a lot going on in the shot itself. But again, it's up to you and what you feel is best. But I may add just one more effect. Maybe on this clip. Let's see what we got. So let me try like a light effect.
Bad bitch.
Mm.
Bad bitch. Bad bitch with me, I need them to choose, cause I can never pick.
Let me just, maybe I'll do this flash. Yeah, but that's a lot already. But just for the sake of this, I'll keep this. So let's see how our video looks now. It should be basically done, but let's see. Oh, another thing too, a lot of people forget, make sure you add the title at the end too. So if, the title, it ends with the title, so we know the song. Yeah, something like that. Oh, and then for the audio, you do want to fade in and fade out, get in that habit of fading out the song so it just sounds better, so it doesn't just abruptly end. This song already fades out, so you don't need to add this, but if you ever want to and the song doesn't do it already, this is how you fade out. You just click the song and then, fade out. So like I said, this fades out really, so I won't really play with it, but we could fade into it like that. So you want to fade in and fade out your audio, getting that habit. It just makes it sound better and more professional. So let's play this video through and see how it looks.
Nico. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Look, if it's money that you want, then I got it. They be out of pocket and bitches is pocket watching. I got a lot of options. If I want it, I'ma copy it. Ain't really nothing to me. She know that the kid is ballin'. I've been sipping Henny, borderline and alcoholic. She roll up a whoop for me, good for me. That's her chronic. Straight off in the belly, the seat for giving massage. She never wanted to end, but I pass off to my partner. Lord knows, let's sit the telly, make a mirror. I can never fall in love. I do it for the thrill. Oh no, I'm popping another pill. Try to think of love, I can't tell her how I feel. Never sober, I'm off of the juice. I keep a bad bitch with me, I need them to choose. Cause I can never pick and choose when I get on the move. So tell her bring a friend with her and hop in his coupe. When I get off the Henny, I get a different view. Jackie Robinson with his how I get in the booth. Had to cancel that cause one never gets me amused. When you and these blessings like I'm with different rules. Still, I'm thinking in the system, she wanna come to the crib. Cause she heard at me in the gang and luxury living. Got models all in the whippy. She want me, but she can't get me. Trying to put a ring on his finger. That little bitch is silly. I'm a smooth ass criminal. I can make you fall in love tonight like it's a ritual. You ain't never seen nobody like me, it's a visual. You get time me down, no, I ain't doing individual. That love shit is fictional.
Okay, not bad. I do say so myself. But there's two more things I want to show with the music video. Oh, first thing, transitions. So if you want to add transitions, remember that only can happen with two shots next to each other. So, for example, let's say I delete this. Oops. Okay, so I would have to undo this, delete that, and then drag this down here. So now that I have these two clips next to each other, two different scenes next, I can add a transition. So I could do something like this. Oh wait. And it might not let you if they're not together. So you see it's this gap right here. So I can't put a transition because that gap. See, there's no continuous clip. So then you want to bring that magnet back again and make sure that's aligned. Or you could just bring it closer and then it does it. But I'll do the slide left. See how that looks.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's
yeah.
yeah, that's nice. Okay, so we got that. Maybe add like two more transitions. But again, remember the clips have to be next to each other. And ideally two different clips. So we got this one. Let's delete that. Let's put this between there. Maybe we can do a blur zoom out. If it doesn't let you, it's because it's probably not connected. So we gotta do that. Here we go.
You never wanted to end, but
Okay, there's one, and let's do one more. And let me try to put it in between the same scene. So you see how this is the same scene? And I mentioned you probably want two scenes, but let's see how it looks with the same scene. If we put a transition between there.
she heard at me in a gang of luxury.
My computer's kind of chopping it, making it choppy. And plus, that didn't really stand out that much. But maybe this.
She heard at me in a gang of luxury living.
Yeah, that's nice. A little
Luxury living.
All right, so we got three transitions. All right. So that's the first thing I want to show you. So let's see how this looks now.
Nico. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Look. If it's money that you want, then I got it. Leave me out of pocket and bitches is pocket watching. I got a lot of options. If I want it, I'ma copy it. Ain't really nothing to me. She know that the kid is ballin'. I've been sipping Henny, borderline and alcoholic. She roll up a whoop for me, good for me. That's that chronic. Straight up in the Bentley, the C.L.I.C.K give it massage. She never wanted to end, but I pass out to my partner. Lord knows, lost at the telly, make a mirror. I can never fall in love. I do it for the thrill. Oh no, I'm popping another pill. Try to think of never, I can't tell her how I feel. Never sober, I'm off for the juice. I keep a bad bitch with me, I need them to choose. Cause I can never pick and choose when I get on the move. So tell her bring a friend with her and hop in this coupe. When I get off the Henny, I get a different view. Jackie Robinson with his how I get in the booth. Had to cancel that cause one never gets me amused. When you and these blessings like I'm with different rules. Still have no way in the system, she wanna come to the crib. Cause she heard that me in the gang and luxury living. Got models all in the whippy. She want me but she can't get me. Trying to put a ring on this finger, that little bitch is silly. I'm a smooth ass criminal, I can make you fall in love tonight like it's a ritual. You ain't never seen nobody like me, it's a visual. You can't tell me no, no, I ain't doing individual. That love shit is fictional.
All right. This guy kind of reminds me of Lil Skies. You ever heard of him? But yeah. So, you know, I'm just showing you all of this just to show you everything you can do in a music video. So last thing I want to show you was quick cuts. So if you cut quick on certain shots, you get like a real cool back and forth effect. Or you could cut on beat. So each time the beat drops, there's a cut that makes it flow better. So for example, I'll take this transition off. So like, see.
Yeah, yeah. Look, if it's money that you want, then I.
So I'll do anytime the beat drops, I'll change the scene. So that'll make it flow more. So each time the beat drop, boom, new scene. New beat, boom.
Getting bitches is pocket watching. I got a lot of options. If I want it, I'ma copy it. Ain't really nothing to me. She know that the kid is ballin'. I've been sipping.
So right there, I want to change. I want to add a new scene to that beat. So I know the beat's there. Cool. So let me take this off. Ooh, actually, I forgot it was one above it. Let's do like that. So when the beat drops, boom. So another one right there.
She roll up a bottle. I've been sipping Henny, borderline and alcoholic. She roll up a whoop for me, good for me. That's that chronic.
Boom. So add another one. So what you'll have to do, see, I don't have any more scenes right here. You might have to extend one of them if you decide to do a beat cut. I mean, cut on beat. Then I'm gonna probably have to cut it and then bring this one back. So let's see now.
The kid is ballin'. I've been sipping Henny, borderline and alcohol. The kid is ballin'. I've been sipping Henny, borderline and alcoholic. She roll up a whoop for me, good for me. That's that chronic. Straight up in the Bentley, the C.L.I.C.K give it massage. She never wanted to end, but I pass out to my partner. Lord knows, lost at the telly, make a mirror.
Boom. So you see what I'm saying? So that I'm cutting at each time the beat drops and I'm changing the scene. That gives it a different effect, right? It makes it like you add some rhythm to it. And so that's another trick that a lot of artists use and editors when they edit, they cut to the beat. So each time is a new beat. Like each time the beat drops, it changes the song, changes the scene. So that way it just flows differently and flows better. So that's
She never wanted to
so that's one thing I want to show you kind of beat, and then those quick cuts. So for example, now let me show you this. So I'm gonna extend all my footage out. And also the thing with video editing, it gets strenuous and it gets kind of tiring after a while. So I mean, for me, once I'm editing now, I'm like in it until I'm done. Then I'll take my break. But for people who are starting out, it's important to actually take breaks and sit back and look at your footage and okay, maybe take 10 minutes to get something to eat or get some water or listen to something, to kind of get your mind uh, uh, give your mind a break. And then when you come back to the video, you look at it with fresh eyes. You say, no, let me change this, or maybe this should be moved. So those little breaks actually help. But eventually, depending on like the type of editor you are, you may not even want breaks. Like I know for me, I like to just edit straight through. And when I'm done, then I'll take my break. But at first, I was taking a lot of breaks just to get my eyes right, which helped a lot. So just throwing that in mind. But I'll show you what I mean about those quick beat cuts. So here are my two scenes I'm gonna work with. I got that motel scene. Well, that's the B-roll. So I probably don't. I'll take my B-roll out. I'll use these two. The warehouse and then the kitchen. You can't see it because it's under this one. So I'm gonna do those quick cuts. So to do that, you probably want to zoom in. Just cut real tightly. Don't make wide cuts. So I'm probably cut there, cut there, cut there. Real tiny cuts. And you'll see why that makes a difference. Okay, so let me just use that for now. Okay. So I have these tiny cuts. So I'll delete this one. So I'll delete every other one. And these might not even be quick enough. Might not though. And then I'll do this. So let's see this now.
She roll up a whoop for me, good for me. That's her crap.
So notice after you see these quick cuts, how it kind of changed the vibe of the video.
Borderline and alcoholic. She roll up a whoop for me, good for me. That's her chronic.
Those quick cut, it makes it like stroby, and it gives it a different look. Makes it feel like he's going through like something mentally or something. I don't know. It's a cool little effect.
Good for me. That's her chronic.
It doesn't render it all. I have to render this so we can watch it smoother.
To me, she know that the kid is ballin'. I've been sipping Henny, borderline and alcoholic. She roll up a whoop for me, good for me. That's her chronic. Skirt off in the belly, the seat to give me a massage.
So you could do some stuff like that too. So those are just some little editing tips and tricks. Like I said, I've been doing music videos for a long time, so those type of effects are good for this type of stuff. But if you're doing like a wedding or something, you probably don't want to get crazy with that because that kind of throws it off. People typically want to see the whole wedding or, make wider cuts. But if you're doing something like a horror movie or like a concert video or music video, something where you can actually get a little bit more spicy with it and have creative control, those are some good tips and tricks to have with that. And then another thing that I just remembered is we never really talked about this in class, but slow motion, right? So a lot of music videos you'll see it's like slow mo or like fast motion, but particularly slow motion. Now with slow motion, you have to be careful because there is this thing called frame rate. And you may or may not have heard of it, but frame rate is basically the speed of the camera, the speed of the camera shot. So for example, if you may have heard like things shot at 30 frames per second, 40 frames per second, 50 frames per second, 60 frames per second, 120 frames per second. Um, well, those have different speeds. So if you're shooting I'll just show you an example actually, so it makes sense. So this works in gaming as well. So here we go. All right. So I'm gonna share this tab. Okay. So this is a comparison. Like, so if you ever see movies, this is more like a videographer, cinematographer's like concept and technique. But this applies to video editing as well because you have the footage that the videographer shoots. So you need to know this. Um, like I said, frame rates is the amount of frames shot in a second. They usually measure them in seconds. So you can see, you're about to see the difference between 24 frames, 30 frames, 60 frames. 24 frames is more cinematic. So most movies are shot in 25 frames per second. So your Netflix movies, your movies in theaters, the movies you watch on YouTube, not always YouTube, but most of the time, that's typically 25 or 30 frames per second. But then you have higher frame rates like 60 and 120, which are smoother because if we look at here, let me play this real quick so you can see the difference. So check it out how 30 is a lot more glitchy than 60, and 60 is a lot more glitchy than 120. So 120 is the smoothest because you're shooting in more frames in a second. You have more shots to work with. So the shot's going to be smoother because you have more frames are basically shots. So you have 120 shots in a second, 120 frames in a second versus something that has 30 shots in 1 second. So if you look at something that has 120 shots in 1 second or something that has 30 shots in 1 second, well, the 120 is gonna seem faster or seem smoother because you have more shots. So I'll just show you this example. You'll notice how the 30 is gonna be a lot choppier than the 120. 120 is just gonna roll smoothly. So you can see how it's kind of glitching a little bit, and then this 20 is smooth, right? I don't know if you can see it from your end because of us like screen sharing, but if you look up this video, you can see the difference. And now 120 is a lot smoother. See, that's a good example. This 30 is like kind of glitchy and vibrating compared to this one where it's smoother. Well, that makes sense because you have less shots in 1 second. And here you have 120, up here you have 30. So it's different. Um, Yeah, so higher frame rates, more shots, smoother video. So I'll show this example again. Let's compare them. So this 30, 60, 120. So you see if they slow it down, that 120 is a lot smoother compared to these are a lot choppier. When you see those movies in the movie theaters where it's that nice smooth slow mo, they shot at a higher frame rate, right? So our iPhones can shoot 120 now. Oh, I'm sorry, that was 60, not 120. So you can see how 60 is a lot smoother when you slow it down because you have more frames to work with. So anytime you want to shoot something in great slow mo, you want to increase your frame rate to 60 or 120 or 240. But of course, the higher you go in frames, the more expensive the camera is. So a lot of cameras, you know, if they shoot in 120 frames per second or 300 or 1,000 frames per second, those are typically like $10,000 cameras. So I'll show you like the slow mo guys. If you ever seen their videos, they shoot like 82,000 frames per second, right? So they can get really slow. They even shoot 100,000 frames per second. I'm gonna show you like just this really quick.
Hey, sorry for interrupting. Isn't that annoying? What if I told you there was a way to get rid of ads like this?
Hello, I'm Gav. I'm Dan. We're the Slammer Guys. Welcome back to Kentucky.
So I'll show you. So
Your
they
case
do
is with the base.
the basis behind this video is they basically do a bunch of slow-mo stuff. So they do a lot of experiments and slow it down to show you how cool it looks. So they basically have a gun and they're going to slow it down to 100,000 frames per second. So they're going to shoot this gun. And then here's the camera I was talking about. This is probably like $10,000 camera that they're using. And so they're able to do shots like this and get real slow. So they shot this 100 frames per second. So our phones can't really do this. Yeah. So now they're doing 100 frames. So basically what I'm getting at is if you shoot those high frame rates, you can really get that nice smooth slow-mo, right? So they shoot 100,000 frames per second. Now, if we go back to our video, right, we see this video, not all the scenes, but this scene in particular where he's in the warehouse. If you see here, it has 48 FPS. They shot this in 48 frames per second, which is pretty high. Not high, but it's pretty high in relative to these other ones where he's in the motel and in the warehouse. I mean, the motel and then in the kitchen. Those were shot in probably 25 frames per second. But this particular scene with the warehouse was shot in 48 frames, so basically 50 frames per second, which is higher, compared to 30. So they shot that on purpose to make that smooth slow-mo. So I can actually click the one that says 48 frames per second, which is this one, and go to speed and then decrease it to, let's say, half. But notice it extended it because now it's a longer video since I slowed it down. So it's gonna be a lot slower. So I'll play it and just show you how it gets kind of fast. She never wanted to end, but I passed out to my partner. Lord knows. So it's that smooth slow-mo. And frame rate gets, if you don't have an understanding of it already, it can get kind of complicated. But the more you work with cameras and editing, you'll see how frames work and why that all matters. So yeah, so we see that slow-mo right here. If it's money, that's we can slow it down even more. Maybe a third, but again, it extended it because it's a longer video now. So I probably want to cut it. Boom. And now let's see. That's a chronic. Ability to see to give it massage. She never wanted to end, but I passed out. So that's that slow-mo. Yeah. So that's how you add slow-mo. Now, if I were to put slow-mo on these other ones that didn't have it, like maybe like this motel scene. it won't really look right because the way it was shot, they didn't shoot this in a higher frame. They shot this in like 30. So
Yeah, yeah,
see how it's kind of choppy?
yeah.
See, it's kind of blurry and choppy. Not blurry, but choppy. That's not smooth slow-mo. So we want that smooth slow-mo like it is on here. So I'm gonna reduce this one now to half.
If it's money that you want, then I got it.
So that's pretty smooth. So let's see.
If it's money that you want, then I got it. Leave me out of pocket and bitches is pocket watching. I got a lot of options if I want it.
So that's that smooth song. But notice it only works. Well, it doesn't only work for this clip, but this is how you get the best looking slow-mo. If it's shot in that 50 or 60 or 120 frame rate. All these other ones, it will look kind of choppy like how it was before. So yeah, that's frame rate, and that's a little bit about that. Any questions with making a music video at all?
No question.
Okay. All right. So I want to make you understand like frame rate a little bit more. So I'm gonna play this video.
Films are made up of sequences. Sequences are made up of scenes. And scenes are made up of shots. In previous episodes, we covered camera lenses, movement, and gear. But in this episode, we will discuss how different frame rates impact motion.
Okay.
Did you say something?
I said I can't see the video.
Oh, you can't?
Mm-mm.
Okay. Can you hear it though?
Mm-hmm.
All right. How about now? Can you see it?
No, it just says, oh, yep, no, I can't.
All right. I'll start from the beginning.
Films are made up of sequences. Sequences are made up of scenes. And scenes are made up of shots. In previous episodes, we covered camera lenses, movement, and gear. But in this episode, we will discuss how different frame rates impact how we perceive motion and the speed at which motion appears on screen. This is episode 8 of the Shot List. Frame rate. In this video, we'll include tips on how to manage frame rates in your projects to help you avoid the common mistakes while creating something visually stunning. Now, first, let's frame this video. Cinema is built upon illusions. Sets recreate reality. Editing manipulates time. Visual effects do the impossible. But the first and most fundamental illusion is motion.
Motion pictures are based on an optical illusion. Just another case where seeing is believing.
Despite the name, when we watch a film, we are not seeing a motion picture. We're actually seeing multiple pictures, a series of still images. Playing back these images, or frames, consecutively creates the perception of motion. There are a couple of theories on how this works. The phi phenomenon, beta movement, persistence of vision. But the short answer is that when images are shown fast enough, our brain loses the ability to see individual frames and blends them together into a single moving image.
Persistence of vision is the principle which makes movies possible.
Now, the number of individual frames that are shown within 1 second is known as frame rate. Frame rate is expressed in frames per second, or FPS. For example, a frame rate of 30 FPS contains 30 individual frames, or still photos, within 1 second. To shoot a narrative that emulates the look of traditional cinema, you will want to shoot at a frame rate of 24 FPS. When sound was first introduced to motion pictures,
This is what the people want. Silent pictures are yesterday's news.
the frame rate needed to be fast enough to utilize sound technology, but slow enough to save money on the amount of film being shot. Its consistent use over decades has dubbed it the most cinematic frame rate. However, we've seen some notable exceptions over the last few years. The Hobbit was famously shot at 48 frames per second. The goal was to reduce motion blur and the eye strain of 3D presentation. Director Peter Jackson wanted to create a completely immersive audience experience.
100 years ago, movies were black and white, they were silent, they were 16 frames a second, okay? And so 100 years from now, what are they going to be? I think you can absolutely guarantee they're not going to be 24 frames a second. So at what point between now and 100 years do these advances actually happen?
Director Ang Lee took this idea a step further when he decided to shoot Gemini Man at a whopping 120 FPS.
That's a vision more closer to life. The experience is different. The perspective is different. You got a first-person feeling. What would that be like? To me, it's a logical next step.
However, since this video essay is presented at 24 frames per second, these clips you're seeing don't represent the look of higher frame rates. So, to get the full experience, you need to see it projected at an equal frame rate. Are these failed experiments or an evolution in filmmaking? Let us know in the comments.
But enough dwarfs for one day.
Now, the additional frames in higher frame rates makes motion look smoother. But what about when cinematographers deviate from realistic speed to tell their story? Fast motion. Assuming you'll be playing back at 24 frames per second, simply put, lower frame rates can make motion look choppy because they lack frames. What's the point of doing it that way? For example, recreating the vintage look of old home movies. Or adding a comedic element to the scene. In our previous video, director Jay Roach revealed this simple trick for creating fast motion.
The way the fembots' heads explode, it's such a primitive technique. You just undercrank the camera to 2 frames. They move their heads around at normal speed, but because it's undercranked, it looks like they're just jerking around and short-circuiting that, of course, their heads explode.
Oops! I did it again, baby. Yeah!
Now, let's look at another reason filmmakers shoot lower frame rates. This technique is called step printing. This is done by shooting a low frame rate. often with a slow shutter speed to create the blurring and streaking. Then the frames are copied and repeated to create 24 frames per second. For example,
my name is Domino Harvey. I am a bounty hunter.
In Tony Scott's Domino, they shot sequences at 6 frames per second, then printed each frame an additional 4 times to equal 24 FPS.
I tried Beverly Hills High for a spell, but it didn't work out. I hated them.
You can also find this effect in the films of Wong Kar-wai.
What?
In Gladiator, and music videos. The physical motion is at normal speed, but the amount of motion blur gives the impression of fast motion. Ideal to create a visceral and subjective presentation. For more on the relationship between shutter and frame rate, check out our other video on shutter speed, linked below. Now, let's look at the opposite effect. Slow motion.
If we want to slow down the motion of something that goes fast, we speed up our camera and make, say, 5 times as many pictures per second. We have slow motion when they are shown on the screen at normal camera speed.
Assuming you'll be playing back at 24 frames per second, to create a slow motion effect, you'll need to shoot at a frame rate higher than the playback rate. Say 48, 60, or even 120 FPS, which is called overcranking. The higher the frame rate, the slower you can slow down footage while maintaining smooth motion and clarity. For The Matrix, shots were taken at speeds up to 300 FPS.
You're empty. So are you.
The opening credit sequence of Zombieland was shot at 1000 FPS. The key thing to remember about slow motion is that it emphasizes whatever action or emotion you present it with. It can make horror more terrifying, action more spectacular.
Oh, great.
Or comedy more hilarious. Filmmakers utilize these extremely high frame rates to capture motion that even the human eye cannot see.
I can't get a shot!
In this scene from The Hurt Locker, extreme slow motion is used to brilliantly capture an explosion. High frame rates also enable filmmakers to utilize speed ramps, like in this iconic action sequence from Zack Snyder's 300. A speed ramp is an editing technique used to transition between varying speeds of motion in the same shot, where each strike is given extra weight and impact. To better understand the impact of slow motion on story, take a look at these 2 fight scenes. One is at normal speed while the other is in slow motion.
Creed ready to let his hands go. Creed misses and gets hit in return.
First, distract target.
Then block his blind jab. Counter with cross to left cheek.
Hard left hook for Conlon.
Discombobulate. Dazed. Will attempt wild haymaker.
What does slow motion accentuate in this fight scene for the audience?
Weaken that jaw.
Lead spins. Puts the champ in the corner.
What does it take away?
Throwing body shots like he's Rocky Balboa.
Let us know in the comments. And now, as promised, some tips on how to manage frame rates in your projects. Pencils out.
Settle down, class. Settle down.
Deciding which frame rate to shoot at depends on what you want the final product to look like, which we'll call the quality of motion, such as normal motion, fast motion, or slow motion. However, the final frame rate we see on screen, we're actually seeing the relationship of two different speeds, which we'll call the capture rate and the presentation rate. Capture rate is how many frames per second were recorded by the camera, while your presentation rate is how many frames per second the audience sees in the finished film. For normal speed motion, the presentation rate must equal the capture rate. If you're shooting something with a lot of motion, like sports or concerts, you might want to consider shooting and presenting at higher frame rates, as the additional frames will make motion appear smoother.
Throwing. Akers out of the backfield.
Remember, to achieve slow motion, you would shoot faster than 24 FPS. However, as you recall, Gemini Man was shot at 120 FPS for normal motion. Let's see what that looks like, slowed down to 24 FPS. The motion is completely smooth, but the duration and audio is stretched. Another reason why your presentation rate is so important. The opposite is true for fast motion. All you need is to shoot at a rate slower than 24 FPS, which is called undercranking. So, the main takeaway is don't mix frame rates if you want normal-looking motion. Only mix frame rates if you intend to shoot high frames per second to create slow motion, or shoot lower frame rates to create a choppy, jittery aesthetic. Now, I know this is a lot of information, so for a complete breakdown on frame rates and all the practical ways you can experiment with them, we have an ultimate guide on our blog. The link is in the description. Remember, no matter how many frames per second you shoot, it is your presentation rate that matters.
Discombobulate.
Add your shot, its details, and specify the frame rate here. You can call attention to the specialty shot by color coding it to make sure the frame rate is cranked to the correct value. If you're ready to create a shot list, you can find a link to Studio Binder's free shot listing tool in the description. And remember that you are in complete control of your frame rate. Have fun with it.
You're crazy. You're crazy.
Subscribe, click the bell, and find out what we do next.
Nothing but the ghetto. Taking short steps, 1 foot at a time, and kept my head low. Out of control.
All right, so that was a little bit about frame rate and like why it's important, and just how it translates to video and film. Like there's a difference, right? So the way you shoot something, you get a different effect, in the way you view it, you watch it. So that's why that higher frame rate, that's what that matters. So if you ever see, video shot at such and such frame per second, that affects the way, you view it. I do want to play one more video to finish us out. 1 second. Okay. Translating gaming too, but they all still are the same thing. They all still have the same like definition. It's just these are important and applies to gaming as well as video and music.
This is Tony Tomasi with NVIDIA, here to give you a little background on a video we put out recently about high
I
frame
can't see
gaming
it.
and the benefits to latency.
Oh, you can't see it?
No.
Oh, sorry. Let me see. Why is it? I don't know why it does that. How about now?
Yeah, I can now.
That being frame rate, which is typically. Hi, this is Tony Tomasi with NVIDIA, here to give you a little background on a video we put out recently about high frame rate gaming and the benefits to latency, smoothness, and animation. Before we dive into this in too much depth, let's first understand a couple of the fundamental concepts, that being frame rate, which is typically your GPU, and the display rate, or hertz, which is typically your monitor's ability to refresh the screen. The animation that you see here is a demonstration of the monitor and the GPU's rates. The topmost graph is showing the rate at which the monitor is refreshing the screen, which is measured in hertz. On the bottom, you're seeing the graph of the GPU's render rate, or frame rate. While it might average 60 frames per second, some frames are faster and some frames are slower, and they don't perfectly align. For high frame rate gaming, you want both of these to be as high as possible. Before we dive into our topics in detail, one clarification I should make is we've made a simplification. We've made the assumption that our GPU rate, frame rate, and our display rate, hertz, are the same thing. While this doesn't typically happen in the real world, this is a simplification we've made to help with the fundamental concepts and understanding. So one of the first topics we want to talk about is animation smoothness. One of the things you'll notice that is a great difference between a 60 frame per second and a 240 frame per second game is the smoothness of the animation. And that's because in each case, the rates of the animation updates are happening at different frequencies. 60 frame updates happen once every 60th of a second, which means that as an animation is stepping through, it only has 60 times every second to update its position, which means the steps are larger. At the 240 frame rate, the updates are happening 4 times as frequently, once every 240th times per second, which means that the size of the animation steps are smaller, which makes the animation feel much smoother. Taking a look at this top and bottom, you can see that 60 frame and 240 frame rate video have a very different feel in terms of smoothness. The 60 frame rate video has much larger animation steps, making it feel much less smooth than the 240 frame per second video. Next up is ghosting. Ghosting is that property we've all experienced, and you see this kind of faint blur that looks like it's trailing an object in motion. That's actually a side effect or a property of our typical modern flat panel displays because they have an update rate. Looking at our bouncing ball animation, you can see that the step size is fairly large, which means that smear behind the object is fairly pronounced. If we look at the animation now at 240 hertz, you can see the step size is much smaller, which makes the ghosting much less pronounced and therefore much less distracting. Looking at this in-game in CSGO, our character is moving from right to left. At 60 hertz, you can see the animation steps are fairly large, so the ghosting is fairly pronounced. On the right-hand side, you can see the character moving at 240 frames per second, and the steps are much smaller, so the ghosting much less pronounced and therefore much less distracting. To understand our next topic, tearing, it's important to understand another concept, which is VSync. VSync is the synchronization, or lack of, between the display and the GPU. In the VSync on scenario, the display and the GPU are locked, which means the GPU only presents completed frames on the display. In the VSync off scenario, there's no waiting, which means the display is going to continue updating and it's going to grab the frame at whatever state the GPU happens to have it in, which could be sometimes partial frames, and then present it. That partial frame appears on your screen as a tear. Why would you accept tearing? Well, one of the advantages of VSync off is that the GPU can render as fast as it possibly can, which can make the game feel much more responsive. We've made some simplifications here today around VSync for understanding. We'll get into more complex topics like G-Sync and variable refresh rate at a later date. As you can see here in the animation, the lack of synchronization between the GPU and the display causes tearing. The GPU is required to present an incomplete frame. The size of that tear that you see there is determined by the animation step. At lower frame rates, those steps are fairly large, so tearing can be quite pronounced. At higher frame rates, the steps are much more frequent, so they're smaller, so the tears are much less pronounced and therefore less distracting. Looking at tears in CSGO, we can see here as we zoom in on the vertical brown tower, the tears on the top are much smaller than the tears at the bottom at 60 hertz because the animation steps are much more frequent and therefore the tearing much less pronounced at 240 hertz. Our final topic is system latency, which is a bit more complicated. System latency is typically known as that mouse click to muzzle flash or that motion to photon latency. It is not network latency, which is typically how your computer communicates over the internet to a back-end game server, sometimes referred to as lag. Taking a look at our game pipeline, we have a 60 frames per second example. And again, for simplification, we've decided to set the GPU rate and the CPU rate to be the same. So in this case, they're both at 60 frames per second. That means the blue bar here, the CPU, takes 16 milliseconds at 60 frames per second to do its work. It then hands off that frame to the GPU, which also takes 16 milliseconds at 60 frames per second to do its work. The gray bar that you see there is the amount of time it actually takes the display to update and show you that frame. At 240 frames per second, everything speeds up. Our CPU work, our GPU work, and our display work are all roughly 4 times as fast. So at 240 frames per second, your system latency is 1/4 the time. Using a single frame as an example, we have a fast system here on the top and a slower system on the bottom. They're both doing the same work, which is to render and produce a single frame. The fast system is producing CPU work, GPU work, and display work sooner than that slower system doing the same work. The difference between those two is the difference in overall system latency, which is felt as reduced input delay, which is mouse click to muzzle flash or motion to photon. Okay, to bring this all home, let's take a look at an example of system latency in CSGO. At the top, we have a fast system running at 240 frames per second, and at the bottom, a 60 frame per second system. They're both receiving updates from the network at the same time, but the faster system processes that work faster, resulting in lower latency, and the slower system takes longer. Denotated here by this vertical bar, the difference between a 240 frame per second system and a 60 frame per second system is quite pronounced. That difference is the difference in system latency, which lets you as the player react faster. So we've explained some of the fundamental concepts, but why is this important? Why does high frame rate matter? What we have here is a chart that plots the correlation between high frame rate and success in a first-person shooter. In this case, what we've done is measured kill-death ratios in battle royale games like Fortnite and PUBG, and as you can see, there's a correlation between higher frame rates and higher kill-death ratios. If you're interested in the study, please check out the link below. We hope you found our video on high frame rate gaming informative. Please leave your thoughts.
All right, so that's basically it. I just wanted to show you how it would translate into gaming, how it's similar. You can see the blurriness and how a higher frame rate affects gaming too. So yeah, it's a big thing in video. You know, if you decide to get into video editing and go into the music video space, that's something I think should know, just to have more control over your video. But yeah, that's pretty much all I have today. In terms of music videos and frame rate. Any questions at all? If not, then, we'll be back here next Tuesday on Zoom. But I will be in person Monday. But again, next week Tuesday, we will be online again. Yeah.
All right, no questions from me.
Okay. All right. Well then, yeah, that's it from me. And then, yeah, hope you have a good holiday. And then we'll be back here next week.
Hope you have a good holiday as well.
Thank you. All right. Bye.
You cannot be treated any differently based on completely. Go ahead. But somebody might ask, you would be confused, you guys will start seeing that a whole lot. It wasn't as popular when I was growing up, but someone may ask you how you identify she, her, he, him, they, them, so that they are not disrespectful, right? You might get that. You have to put it up. Unless it's for religious reasons. Within everyone, within regardless of your ethnicity, everyone, right? We're talking about, I have blocks and someone else might be white or another race has, ethnicity has long hair. They don't have to cut their hair, but I have to cut my hair because I have blocks. That's what's protected. They can wear their hair however they like, but because I have blocks, I have to cut my hair. Now we don't have to do that. For the military, you say, for the military, everyone has to, women, or they have to keep it off their collar. You don't have to cut your hair, but you do have to keep it off your collar. So in this particular case, Riot Games is held accountable. There was a lawsuit, and there was a settlement. So you know why most cases go to settlement instead of trial. They settle on court. Likely think that this amount of money is less than what a jury would find in life and you don't have to admit guilt. So what normally happens is you go to court and the judge decides like, so now we have it on record that you engaged in these types of practices, law, you have to pay this fine, a jury can decide how much that is. In this case, Riot Games settled. They don't have it on. They settled for $10 million. There is a lot of money. They may not have to admit guilt, but they also promised to overhaul this workplace culture. Go ahead. Do you do what? Every case. Criminal cases, they offer plea deals. That's a settlement. A plea deal is a settlement. If they gave you a plea deal, so the state's attorney said, if you don't go to trial, you don't go to trial 25 years. You can make that decision and not go to trial. Or if you go, you can be found not guilty. No, if you go to That's not what we do. No. Now naturally, if you break the law, and the state's attorney cannot pay not to charge. You cannot pay the police not to charge. You pay bail, but bail it is simple. Bail is you say, I agree to go to court instead of being incarcerated, instead of being behind bars until trial. I agree that I'll pay this amount of money and let me out. I'll go to court, I'll go through the process, and if I'm found not guilty, I get my money back. If I complete that process, I get my money back. Then you lose the money, and then you won't be put out for your No. You pay bail, you still have to pay bail. You still have to pay. You still have to go to court. So you're confusing two things. If you are sentenced to prison, then you have to serve a period of time. So if I get sentenced for 10 years, I have no bail. I have to be in jail for 10 years. No, bail is free. It's a free trial benefit. So you go. Okay. Let me give you an example. I'll give you a very quick example. Go ahead. It's a bill bond. It's a bill to state. So I'll give you an example. I stab someone. I go to jail. I go to bond court. And the judge says, the judge has to determine whether or not I'm a flight risk, let's say, do they believe I will get out of jail and leave without going to trial? Because the state attorney has determined they are going to charge me with attempted murder, right? So I go to court, and the judge says, okay, if you pay $1 million, I will let you out. That means you can go home, but you have to come to court. If I miss a court date, they can remand me. They can make me go to jail until my trial. They will put you back. They will. It's arrest. If you're continuing behavior, they're going to revoke your bond. They're going to revoke your bond. You will still get tried. Shouldn't this be a continue to commit crimes? You didn't pay anything. You paid for your temporary. Or you can go to jail for 2 years. You can be in jail for 2 years waiting for it. Long time. 50% sometimes. And I don't even think that's. I mean, we used to have a day point. But I don't know if we do that anymore. Maybe like 75%. So you have new trials. So if there's new evidence, you can ask for a new trial. So statute of limitations does exist. Do you know what that is? Correct. They cannot charge you. They cannot, for certain crimes, do not have a statute of limitations. And sexual assault. So it means, let's say,
right, good evening, class, and welcome to music production. My name is Eric Jameson. Sorry about that last class, echoing like that. No, probably playing. But today, I finally do have the uh, guest lecture. He's going to do the guest lecture today. We're actually recording. His name is Mike Lee. He's going to tell you all about himself. He's going to do a demonstration of how he make beats and just tell you, how you got to that point, how you accumulate his skill, and things of that nature. So if you give me a few a minute or two, I will have the video set up. So give me a few minutes.
All right, what's up, everybody? My name is Mike Lee. At least that's what I go by. My real name is Michael Lee, but um, yeah, I go by Mike Lee. That's my artist producer name. Um, been producing for a long time, producing, beat making, composing, whatever you want to call it, for a pretty long time now. I want to say um, for about 10 plus years now, definitely. Been making beats. Um, how serious I was in between those times, you would have to ask me at another time, because it's never serious at first. You just want to, start off with your passion, get lost in that, creating that. But how I got into making music, I couldn't really tell you. I just always remember music was a part of my life, especially hip hop. I can't remember a time where I didn't like or loved hip hop. But as far as creating and making it, I want to say my musical journey started when I was a teenager. Growing up, I had no interest or showed no interest in making music. But out of nowhere, one day, I just started writing raps. I thought it was the coolest thing. That's all I did at one point, and I would do it with my friends that I grew up around the corner with. They're still my very, very, very good friends to this day. Um, and we used to just make music, make our raps. They weren't good at the time, but we enjoyed ourselves doing it, and we liked building camaraderie and just friendship over that. And then just being students of something that was just so culturally impactful to us as kids from the inner city. Um, I continued to make music past my teens. It was something I did. I wouldn't even call it a hobby. I would just say it was like my part of my life at that point. Um, I did it well into college. Um, and midway through college, I met some friends that also made music, and we all just thought like, hey, let's all create together. We all got similar interests. Um, we like most of the same stuff. Um, why don't we all just get together and just create some synergy? And that synergy just turned to like long friendships and long creative friendships and long real friendships. And those friendships, we continue to foster them. We all just went to school or whatever in the day, school, work, whatever we did. But on the weekends, we would all get up with each other and create music and just like not take it so seriously. Just like immerse ourselves in the process and have fun. And we did that so much to the point where it got us to a point of seriousness where we were offered a record deal. And it was offered to my friend because he was the artist. But since I was the producer of my friend, uh, we all were able to grow and further establish ourselves and actually establish ourselves in the music industry. Um, he got his record deal, and since he got his record deal, I was able to get a deal of my own, which is a publishing deal. And I am currently signed with a publishing company called Hypnosis Publishing. If you go on their website, you can find my bio, my picture and stuff on it. They don't got a bio. We're working on that, but that's what I'm telling you the bio right now. But yeah, I'm currently signed with that publishing company, and it's been okay. It's been cool. It's what you expect from the industry stuff. But I'm not here to talk so much about the industry stuff. I'm here to talk about what got me to making music, what led me to this point right now in this moment, and which is showing y'all how I make beats. And I have a beat pulled up that I already made. I didn't want to create on the spot because my process can take long. I can get super inspired. Also, didn't want to just chef up something real trash either. So I pulled out a beat that I thought was respectable and that was easy to follow and not too simple. This beat I have pulled up, it's in a program called FL Studio. If you haven't heard about it, it's one of the most pirated programs ever to exist in computer software history. But this program owes a lot to one specific person, and his name is Soldier Boy. He made a lot of his early hits in this program, which established the reputation for this program early on, which was that it's not good. Now a lot of today's radio hits, if not most of them, are made in this program. FL Studio, it used to be called Fruity Loops, but now we're here in FL Studio. I have this beat pulled up. I called it A to Z. That's where you see everything you name right here in this section. Called it A to Z because it's named after an old Lil Wayne song. It's called Alphabet. And so I just changed the name. This beat was inspired by that Lil Wayne song. I took elements from that beat and made my own beat. It's called sampling, but more specifically interpolation. The difference between the two is sampling is when you take the music directly from a source, and interpolation is when you try to recreate what you heard from that source. So I recreated what I heard rather than taking directly. Not that I even take it as a challenge. I just think you have more control of the sound when you do that rather than just taking a piece of already created music and you can't edit it in the same way. So with this, I'll just lay out some of the basics if y'all don't know this already. Let's see, where do we start? So here, this is commonly what people see when they open FL Studio, blocks. This is where you just put all of your sounds, you click them in. It's like, I don't even know, it's like filling out a Scantron in a way. Yeah, you click these in. You can do it all the way. You can click wherever you want, but you want to keep it within a structure and stuff. And that's what these patterns are for. This big box, that's what these called. These are called patterns. I'm gonna skip back down to pattern one. So pattern one, that has the keyboard sound, which I started off with on this beat. It's the most prominent sound in the song I interpolated. So I started with the keyboard first, the key sound, and the keyboard, the piano sound. It comes from what they call a plugin in FL Studio. This plugin is from a third-party company. It's not from ImageLine, who makes FL Studio. It's not from FL Studio itself. I had to buy this from a different company. It's called XLN, and they made Addictive Keys. Pretty good sounding stuff. So I use a lot of this stuff all the time. I'll play you what I started off with the pianos. So you get the gist of how that piano is going through. This is where I wanted to keep this static. I wanted to keep this same simple, not change up too much. and then I was going to use the other instruments, the drums, the other instruments that I use to give it the variation throughout the beat. Here, did we? I'm not sure if I went over this. This is the BPM right here. Everybody that works out at FL Studio knows this. This is so important because it dictates your whole tempo, momentum, metronome right here. Pause the beat. I just made sure that the metronome is on sometimes, even though I've been making music for a long time. Sometimes your ears get tired and you're not hearing things on beat. So if you don't want to take a break from what you're doing, you're too locked in, you turn the metronome on just to make sure everything is still nice and tidy. So I'm gonna introduce another sound. This is strings. Why it's taking so long to build in, but sometimes it takes a while to load. That was another plugin called Mellotron. Mellotron 5. It's a plugin that's based off our exactly like this called Mellotron. And just in case, I know I was talking over the beat. Yeah, this is, again, this is called Mellotron. There's a keyboard that looks exactly like this. A lot of different third-party plugin makers make plugins that look just like this because the real Mellotron is just that good. So let's get back to the beat. I introduced the strings. I wanted to go with some strings that sounded just as dark as the piano started to sound. So I added that. Let's go to the next sound. I believe it is kicks. Oh, it's kick and snare. So yeah, I added the kick and snare just so I can start feeling the beat a little more. And once I added this, I realized I was going in a direction of like a Memphis sounding song. So I just went with that direction the entire beat. Pretty simple. Not nothing too crazy. And I'll show the kick pattern just so you'll see it. There we go. Pattern right here. Turn that metronome on so you know it's on point. It's on your beat. All right, so we got the drums, we got the keys, well, some of the drums. We got the keys here, strings here, kick and snare. This right here is probably just another accent instrument. And you want to add extra instruments to add to the atmosphere of the beat. I noticed I was going with a more mean and edgy sound, so I just started looking for sounds that sounded like that to me. So yeah, that sound I just added in right here, the bloom 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 bloom, pizzicato. I just thought it'd really enhance the beat, and it's a Memphis kind of trap sounding beat, and in those type of beats you hear that instrument sometimes, not all the time, but sometimes, and I thought it'd be good for this one. All right, so just added another instrument here on track 5 in the pattern select in a playlist selector. Sorry, this is the playlist. This is where you structure your beat at right here, the playlist. So I added one more instrument here, unsolo, unmuted that actually, on this track right here, and I'm pretty sure it is what it is. It's the hi-hats. So now we got more of a rhythm being established. I kept it simple. I didn't want any hi-hat rolls. You know, when it sounds like a water sprinkler sometimes, I wanted to keep it very simple. Just so it doesn't muddy up the beat. I wanted this beat to stay simple but sound big. So you can almost rap to it right now, but the producer in me would not let it stop there. It's still too simple. So I wanted to keep adding more. Let's see, what instrument is this? I'll solo it. Let me turn the metronome on. All right, so just let that play for a little bit so you can establish how simple it is. Some things can just play throughout the beat, but if there's variations in other parts of the beat, you won't even realize that that stayed completely the same the entire time or every time it came around. So let me load that back up with all the rest of the sounds that we have so far. All right, so got the idea so far with that. I'm going to add in a couple more instruments just so you start getting more of a fuller idea of what's going on in the beat. So let me start back where we were here. And as you can see, I added this, what is it called? This open hat right here, just so it can enhance the beat drum wise. It can elevate it a little bit more. Open hats are kind of like crashes on a drum set when you hit the cymbals. And I added now another, I would call a perk sound. See, it's called clink perk, the sound itself, just to add some more texture to the beat on top of the hi-hats. And it's doing the same thing. It's doing the same thing that the hi-hats are doing. Not a crazy pattern. It's just following a simple to the metronome pattern. So let me add all these sounds back so you can hear it all together. So far, cool. We got those sounds. But now we here with everybody's favorite sound, the bass. The bass is what everybody loves when it comes to hip hop. And you want to make that a good full sound, but you also don't want it to overpower the beat. You don't want any sound to overpower the beat, but specifically the 808 because since it's on a lower frequency, it's gonna make everything muddy if that's not sequenced right and it's not cleaned up right. Um, I'm not an engineer. I am a producer. I know some mixing jargon and terminology and techniques, but I try to keep it within my purview of expertise because mixing and engineering is completely different than producing and beat making. And I say that to say, um, referring to the 808s and its muddiness, I do all of my mixing in quotations here at the Mixer channel. I just make sure things are not too loud, not too low, and I balance it. I just balance it to taste and with my ear and what I know based off what I've been picking up hearing music all my life. So I just go off that. There's no right way to do any of this stuff. By the way, it's just there's ways that we've all agreed upon over time, and those ways can change. But as of right now, you want to make sure things are too not too loud and not too low. So let me add all this stuff back so you can hear it in full with the bass. So we got this sound. I'm skipping a couple of sounds because these are like effect sounds. These just help the song, the structure of the song flow into each other. You want the chorus to flow into the hook, and you want I mean, not the chorus into the hook. You want the chorus and hook to flow into the verse, and the verse to flow back to the chorus. So, one way to do that and assist the artist or whoever's gonna be on it, you put effects on it so it cues them up. So I'm gonna play it from the top so you can hear these effects. I'll play them solo by themselves. First, I did a DJ scratch, which I chopped up from either I'm not sure where I got that from because I don't know how to DJ, but yeah, I chopped that up from just one of these random sounds I may have found in the terabytes and terabytes of sound that I carry. And then on top of the DJ scratch, I have this what they call a riser to assist the DJ scratch in the build up. So I'll play the riser by itself, the DJ scratch. And it's a reverse sample. I'll put it in every beat pretty much, but I'll play the riser with the beat scratch so you can know what them sound like together. Then I'll play it with the beat. All right, so I'm gonna add those instruments back that I've debuted to you so far. All right, let's play it from the top so you can get the real gist of how the structure is changing. Now you see how every time that this right here, these two effects are introduced, they introduce something else. See, at this part, there was no 808, but after you play this part with the effects, every time you play these effects, you either take something away so you feel something, you add something to it so you feel something. And in this case, I added the so you see, after this DJ scratch and riser, 808. After this DJ scratch and riser, strings, open hi-hat here. So yeah, every time you use a riser or an effects or something, you want to take something away or add something so you give the a more strong impression of a change. right, so we got some guitars here that I found and chopped up. I put guitars right here in these two channels, right here, in the playlist markers. And I use guitars in this beat. I'm not the biggest fans of guitars, but I put these guitars in this beat, and it's called a wah wah guitar because it kind of sounds like it's crying, like wah. But I put a wah wah guitar in this beat because, again, remember I started this beat with it being inspiration from an old Lil Wayne song. The old Lil Wayne song had a guitar in it, a wah wah guitar. So I decided to add that to my beat. And I got two different ones. This is a different wah wah. This is one, I'll play it. And then this is one. Just so you have variation throughout the beat. It's not the same one. It won't sound, it'll sound fresh, even if it's two alternating throughout the beat. This sound right here, I believe, is the most important sound of the beat because it gives a lot of the beat its flavor. Um, as far as when it comes to what direction and the edge it has. Midway through this, like I said, I realized I was making more of like a Memphis kind of sound. So I was like, oh, Memphis, let me find some old chopped and screwed, some old 3-6 Mafia stuff, and let me chop that up and put it in the backdrop of the beat. Now it's a vocal sample from a very old 3-6 song. I'm not even sure which one. I just know it's from an old 3-6 Mafia song because they're like the pioneers of the Memphis sound. So I went to an old 3-6 Mafia song, found this clip. And literally the whole time, I don't know if he's saying I'm just chewing or I'm just doing. But even though he's saying the same thing, I just tucked it in the back of the beat, and it added so much. I want to say atmosphere. It gave the beat whatever I was looking for at the time because I thought it was missing something, and it definitely replaced the missing something. So yeah, let me play all of this stuff together. I only got a couple of more sounds. It's a pretty simple beat, and I intentionally chose a more simple beat, so it won't be something that's so overwhelming if this is your first time getting familiar with making beats or just making beats in FL Studio. So yeah, let me play that from the top so y'all can hear the chopped and screwed part of the beat in the beat. Okay, cool. So just let it play a little bit so you can get more of the feel for it. And I have two more instruments here. I have a mallet, which is also inspiration from the original beat that I'm interpolating. I'll play that solo by itself. And here it is in the song playlist, just playing throughout. And I made two different variations. They're very similar, but at the end of it, the end of the phrase, the melodic phrase is slightly different. You see, it goes this note right here, this section right here is a little different than this section. That note drops down to here, and pattern 22. All right, so that's the mallet. These are just notes that I just added. Also inspired by the original beat. And one last thing, which I thought helped really help the chorus, the hook of the beat. Also something that I got the idea from the original sample was the strings. And it's just simply 3 notes. One, whoops, sorry. Sorry about that. Let me go back. Scroll down. Yeah, it's just 3 notes. It's not even necessarily a chord for real, if you know what those are. I hate to be condescending if you already do. But yeah, this is just a D sharp, a D sharp in another lower octave, and a D sharp in a lower octave. It's just 3 of the same notes stacked together, and they help fill up the beat. So now I can play the entire beat together, and you can get the full gist of what's going on. And I'll start it from the top. So yeah, I just wanted to play the entire thing so you can get how all of those ingredients make the dish that you pretty much cooking up. Um, One last thing I would say, too, in regards to actually making the beat, um, right here, as you notice, as you hear, you can kind of hear structure as you progress. And when you do this, you kind of want to put yourself in an artist's shoes if you're not an artist, but put yourself in your own shoes or put yourself in your artist's shoes, so you can get the feel of where you think the artist should start, where you think the verse should start, where the hook should start. And you should also be mindful of just all the music you've heard, because that'll give you a good way to go on where to structure a song if you're ever making a beat and you get lost on how to structure the beat up. Structuring a beat is very important. Um, Sometimes it just helps to structure a beat, even if you don't have a way to structure it, because it can open up another idea on the beat. you solo this, you put this part there, and then it may inspire another part. Now you can go back and fix another part that you was having trouble with throughout the process. It's just a lot of things that can lead to another, and strong structure is one of the most important parts of making a song, and most importantly, a beat when people hear it. If a beat is too loopy, it may make people disinterested because it's looping around too much in a way that they don't like. It makes it feel samey. But if you have a good hold on song structure, um, it'll always sound fresh to an extent. You'll always hear new things, at least when you first hear the song or the beat the first couple of times when you first hear it. But yeah, that's pretty much it. I enjoy what I do. I hope you see this and want to develop your own journey so you can enjoy what you do as well. Um, and if you have any questions, I'm sure they will be directed to me, and I have no problem answering. And I know I'm not really good at explaining things, especially when it comes to this in particular, because I was kind of all over the place. But if there's any clarity or clarification you need regarding this process, just let me know, and I'll try to get back to you as soon as I can.
And all right, and that was the lecture from Michael Lee. I'm sorry about the audio problems. I hope you put your headphones on, you'll be able to hear him a bit better. But just a real quick recap of what he was saying was that he signed a pub deal with Capitol Records. Michael Lee and another one of our family members also got signed to Capitol Records through No ID, the producer No ID, who's from Chicago. He helped train, Kanye West and a bunch of other people, produced for a lot of artists, Jay-Z, Beyonce, all of that. And they all signed a deal with Capitol Records. He's had a publishing deal. He just had a new publishing deal. He had produced for artists such as Erica Banks. He does some co-production for Big Sean, a lot of people. So he knows what he's talking about. He's in that industry still. We talk, a lot, daily. Really, great person, great producer. One of my favorite producers. What you heard was just to me in my eyes, was just a sniff of the talent that he had. He had a lot more heat. But that was today's lecture. Now, usually around this time, it is 7:45, so I will miss class, and I am going to miss class in a minute. But I also wanted to let you know that we're probably going to push the beat battle back probably a week because of the holiday season, because we're not going to be in class until next year. So just keep that in mind. Just think of ideas. Just remember, if you can, remember your beat, the tempo that you use. Just try to collect ideas so when you do come in, you can get right to it and work on your beat when we have class the first Monday. But until then, you all have a great night. You all have a great Christmas. I will see you all Friday for streaming class. Until then, you stay well, stay safe. And if you need to contact me, you can email me at aramis.singleton@clickservicesnsp.org. And then I will respond back as soon as possible. Until then, everybody, have a Merry Christmas, and I will see you all Friday.
Have a Merry Christmas.